vehicle down Highway 90, and I know that because there was about 6 inches of mud on the road and there were no tracks in the mud. My assistant, she called and she said, you know, how's it look? And I said, it's gone. And she said, what about such and such? And I said, it's gone. Gone. Gone.
I thought I knew how bad it would be. Man, was I wrong. I grew up here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, dead center of the worst natural disaster in American history, Hurricane Katrina. I took the first flight into the coast after the storm. My 80-year-old mother had decided to ride Katrina out in her home, alone.
He said, what do you mean it's gone? I said, just stop asking. I said, it's all gone. I said, I hadn't been able to get north of the tracks now, but I can look as far as that and tell you that everything that was there south of the tracks is gone. And she, you know, started crying, and I wasn't crying yet.
We all thought at one point the storm was headed way west of New Orleans. In fact, a lot of the weather forecasters said so. But Katrina had a mean left hook. And what do we know about a left hook? Well, it curves right. And in this case, right into the heart of the Mississippi Gulf Coast, my home. I'd been through Hurricane Camille. I thought I was prepared for the worst. I had no idea. When I got back to California, I waited for FEMA. I waited for the Small Business Administration, and I waited for the insurance companies to fulfill their promises and do the right things. And while billions of dollars poured into the war in Iraq, the national media focused on the levee breaks in New Orleans, but Mississippi had taken the full force of Katrina. But the people of the coast are strong, their sense of humor intact, their stories amazing.
The worst actual natural disaster to ever hit in the United States actually happened.
Bay St. Louis, there's been a lot of tradition that's just been wiped out one morning down there.
You know, God has a reason for everything. This is a true disaster.
Every time I look at it, I go, wow, man, look at that, look at that. I mean, it's like Hiroshima, you know?
I've seen a lot of sad things over the years, but I have never seen anything as sad as this. And people from all walks of life. I mean, it definitely, for better or worse, was a leveling event. You go from business to home to business, and every single person has a story.
A good portion of Bay St. Louis is gone. All along the beachfront, up along the river. We got a really, really hard hit.
6 months after Katrina, this was like a frontier town.
Right behind me right here is what a lot of it's like. Just a gutted club that used to be packed full of people.
We were evolving very, very quickly. We had just become, within the last 10 years, the second largest city in the state. We had some great entertainers who were here doing their thing and still doing it. They're still around. Mac Taylor, you know, singer, songwriter people, you know. We had some really great local flavor clubs, you know.
There was a lot of work, needless to say, for the musicians. Some of them, there's a lot of casino work, but when they first came in, they hired the musicians from Sunday through Thursday, and they'd have the big names in on Friday and Saturday. Well, those are the nights a musician needs work. Anybody can work on Friday and Saturday, you know, but get a gig on Monday night, that's cool.
Not so much an underground scene, it wasn't like this big thing that nobody in the world knows about, but you did kind of have to come here to experience that, and yeah, that's missing. And as far as how that affects the culture, I think you take any piece out of the culture like that and it's going to affect the whole thing somehow.
The health of the art scene all along the coast was vibrant. We were written up as one of the 10 best small art towns in the United States. USA Today picked that up. So between Bay St. Louis and Ocean Springs, basically the two ends, we had it nailed.
Things were very, very good. Things were happening on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and the economy was vibrant. We sent a lot of money to Jackson. We came from 1 million tourists a year to 8 to 10 million a year. We've gone from 5,000 to 20,000 motel rooms. We lowered our tax rate in the city of Biloxi 50%. Built new schools, 4 new schools, probably about $90 million worth of, and we put hundreds of millions of dollars into our infrastructure with new roads, new water and sewer lines, and overlaid every street in Biloxi just about. And we're gonna have to do it again because just about every street is nothing but potholes now.
There was a lot of stuff going on. I've got personal, friends of mine that were, making a living playing casinos and going up and down, and they basically had to just quit.
God, it just makes me sick to see what has happened, because of course your beachfront is typically, in all communities, your older part of the community, and that has it's just been erased.
The mail came in at night. I saw this with my own 2 eyes. I know that there was about 20 people stranded in East Biloxi on their roofs. They told them to get out. It was too late. Couldn't go back in and help them with that. I've lost communications with my civil defense people, and I can't get out. The water's going down here in front of City Hall, but the wind is still a hurricane force wind, and there's all kind of debris all over the Muse Street here, and I'm sure it is all over. I just know that a lot of the beachfront homes are destroyed.
I'm hopeful that we'll be able to pull everything together here on the coast and rebuild some of our historic sites and museums, because these are the things that represent sort of where a culture and a people have come from and what that all means. Why is a certain particular area different from another particular area?
I don't know if the little bars that we had, some of the little restaurants, I don't know if they'll be back. Henry's Pool Hall, which got washed away, I doubt if he'll come back. So we'll lose a lot of that. A lot of it will come back, but a lot of it's not going to come back either.
It was a pretty good nightlife. You had a lot of choices to actually go see cover bands, original music, older music, newer music. Due to the hurricane, there was probably a good at least 10 or 12 regular bars and places that actually hosted music that actually were destroyed.
There are a number of our artists that have left. I mean, they're gone and they're gone for good. That's very sad. But there are still a lot of us that even though they have not been able to produce much work, they're still here. They're fighting FEMA, they're fighting the insurance companies, they're trying to get the SBA stuff going. So they haven't been able to produce a lot of work, but they will. They will.
Emails were flooding in about all the artists and all the museums. What did I know? What could I tell them? You know, I think it's just part of that Gulf Coast lifestyle is making pots, painting pictures, going to the islands, taking photographs, and having fun. It's just that whole life here on the coast is very artistic.
The Gulf Coast attracts artists for a lot of reasons. There are communities around the world and the country that attract artists. It has something to do with the physical environment, I believe, to a great extent. Obviously, people love living near the ocean, and they're always going to live near the ocean. The humidity and the colors on the coast make a unique light that's very soft and filtered. I think artists will always be attracted to the Gulf Coast.
Well, I'm working for FEMA, and practically every musician I know is doing the same. And of course, we don't know how much longer this is going to last. You know, we're hoping that it goes another 2 years.
So are you playing anymore?
No, I've played one time since Katrina, and had to miss a night's sleep, and it was just too hard. I was working 12 hours a day at the time. Still am, pretty much.
The state of music after the storm, I feel it was bleak. I felt like people were desolate, and they felt like it was no hope for music. So that's one reason why I kept trying to produce and give music kind of as a soothing thing. I feel like over the next 3 to 5 years that music will explode here on the coast.
I can't imagine being in an area that doesn't have that. And I think a lot of people here feel that same way.
Before the hurricane, we had 150 members. We're at time renewal now, and we're looking between 30 and 50 after the hurricane.
What happened to those people?
It's been a great relocation experience for many of the people. Most of our members had lost everything they owned. They've lost their homes, they lost all their writing. I have a good friend who's a photographer, and she lost every picture she ever took, and all the negatives and all the copies and all her computer. She lost everything of her whole career. People just had to leave because they'd lost everything. They couldn't stay, they lost their jobs, insurance didn't reimburse them, and so many people are starting over with nothing.
It'll take 100 years before we have antique homes again on the beach. I don't know, you know, it's so sad. That scenic drive in Pass Christian, you know, there's just not a prettier place in the world than that scenic beach was.
Post-Katrina, the music was even more important, with a little bit of normalcy, something for people to attend and get their mind off their own personal troubles.
It's been therapy for a lot of people, you know. I mean, without music, I think we would have been lost in this storm. You know, you got to have something to go with, you know, something to help you, to soothe you, you know.
Where that hole is up there, I had about $10,000 worth of equipment, and it's probably in Hattiesburg now. I don't know where. Couldn't find a thing.
There's still so many people living in tents and FEMA trailers. It's like Groundhog Day for some people, all the time. And for them to just go out, enjoy themselves on Friday or Saturday night and just forget about all that and enjoy music and dance and let go, it's good. It's another type of cleansing.
Of course, you know, with the casinos going out, those musicians went away. And with the other businesses that were regularly having music, those musicians went away.
So you've lost quite a few musicians because you feel like?
Well, I know one that played out here, Jimbo Sage. He ended up living in Pennsylvania.
Many of the artists, some of the ones that we represent in our museum store and on our website, are not returning.
Seeing all of those structures gone, you know, all of the homes and all of the oak trees wiped out, and all of the old theaters, and you know, in Bay St. Louis and in Pastor Christian, and all of that. I mean, you can't rebuild history and soul.
I think New Orleans and here are not going to be the same. To everybody, all these beautiful homes, it's took away. A lot of people, you know, it's scattered. They might come back, they may not, I don't know.
I lost about 97% of everything I had, and starting from scratch, you know.
Of the existing board members and staff, there are 35 of those. 28 of them have no homes, or had no homes immediately after the storm. And that includes myself. Our home was in Ocean Springs on the beach.
I had a beautiful 3-bedroom apartment with a lovely view of the beach, and it's gone.
Everything I'd known as a landmark pretty much was gone.
I lost my home, I lost my studio, and my tree house. It wasn't quite high enough.
It's about 100 times the volume of water that actually hit Western Sumatra.
My old buddy Kim Hoyt has played music on the coast for at least 30 years. He'd worked hard and built his little paradise on the Jordan River in Bay St. Louis. He lost nearly everything.
All right, this is the driveway of the old house. Here to the right, there's a boat in the road. And I don't know where that house used to be up the road, but it's obviously in the road now. And I'm just gonna drive on. We're just looking through the windshield. I'm just pulling into the old zone. As you can see, there's a sailboat in the driveway.
The bottom floor is 14 feet. That's the bottom floor. So up, that's 28 feet. The roof is gone.
This is down the road. There's yet another sailboat. Up in the trees, there's this stuff.
I was actually talking with the neighbor. He said, "Well, you see your boat?" And I go, "No," because it was in the skiff. I figured it blown away. It was upside down on top of his roof. God.
There's the skiff. It's on top of their house. Check it out. There's the anchor that I tied to it. By the way, that knot in that anchor is one that Dad tied. That's the boathouse that blew over. And across the way, there's a house, but what you see here is an empty lot that used to be a house.
Not one family is here full-time. Those people are gone, those people are gone, those people are here part-time, the other people are gone, those people are gone, those people will never be back, those people are gone, those people are gone, those people are gone. There's nobody here.
Ah, the Gibson case. This is the card that was in this guitar when I got it. It was a birthday present from Debbie. Happy birthday.
When I pulled up, there was nothing but debris and rubble. A slab, a Todd Rundgren LP. The oak trees stood. There were huge oak trees in that yard, but there was nothing there either. The address was on the oak tree, 434. Basically nothing, with an American flag sticking out of it. It looked like what I had imagined a war zone would look like Hiroshima or something like that.
Debbie Stanbro is a musical icon on the coast. After Katrina, and with nothing left to call home, she moved to Santa Barbara, California.
My feeling is that our home is gone.
It wasn't really a war zone type thing. It was more like a garbage dump. Just the vibe and everything about it was just not pleasant. Not pleasant. I was real concerned because he had everything set up really nice here. I mean, he'd worked a long time and had done a lot of work. I mean, physical work, mental work, and he had it all set up, and it was just taken away.
This mud is just every place. It's drying now. There's a sailboat. Looks like it's leaning up against the oak tree. I love that old oak tree. There's boats, houses, tops of houses, debris, pine trees. That's the house across the street, what's left of it. Can you believe it? It made it through Camille, and now it's made it through Katrina, the old boat. This used to be the little shed. There's some of the stuff that was in the shed. Those boxes had all my papers in them.
You said that you could only stay here for 2, 3, 4 days at a time after the storm for a while. And I write it in here, I saw why. Tell me the effect it had on you emotionally.
The worst of it was when I first came down here and I was pretty much by myself And it was chaos. There was no cleanup. There is no place that isn't destroyed. So I would come inside and find solitude in the FEMA trailer and try and collect my, sanity just enough to go back out and do some more work. It works on you in a subconscious way in that your mind is always trying to write it. It's like the TV is, the picture's sideways, and so do you turn your head this way? Or does your brain kind of just adjust to it? So that's kind of what happens. The brains, they get scrambled. I actually could go inside the FEMA trailer and I could see things in order. Square edges, there's a table that's sitting upright, the refrigerator's where it's supposed to be, and I would open my door and look outside and there'd be a boat upside down in the yard and a car over there, and there's people's clothes up in the trees, and there's it's completely wrong. Everything is wrong. It's 360 wrong.
Used to be your house.
Yeah, and I didn't even know I had terrazzo floors underneath the old wall-to-wall carpeting.
Talked about leaving, but fell into the line of thinking that Camille didn't get us, so this one's not even.
Here we are at Hurricane Katrina, about 7 o'clock in the morning. It's looking pretty bad right now. A lot of water. Wind gusts about 90 miles an hour. Just went out on the front porch trying to get a little video, but I don't want to go much further right now. Hoping everything will hold together.
We knew that was terrible thinking by mid-morning of the day of Katrina. I'd always said I never wanted to be surrounded by water or have an escape route cut off. And just for frame of reference, where I'm sitting is 23 feet above sea level. And by midday of the day of Katrina, water would have been getting your feet wet on this deck. And that's what the water looks like 99% of the time. And on that day, it started coming up in the front yard, and I knew we had made a terrible mistake. And as the cars began to wash away and houses around us came off their foundation, we knew we'd made a terrible mistake and just got in a survival mode for hours. And it just made it all the more worse with my wife and 9-year-old son here.
As a last
resort here, we made makeshift life preservers out of backpacks and footballs. As you can see, this is where our stairwell was. And water's just about a foot or two below our house. Got about 8 feet of water under us. One of the French doors is broken loose. The deck out there is buckled up and gone. Okay, here's the front. So far the house is holding together. We sure wish we were not here. This is way more water than the mill. And, our stairs are broken away. And we're just kind of hanging on.
During the storm, you know, it was like we were completely surrounded by water, and not only water, not just rising water, but these huge rollers coming in. Plus, the house was just shaking violently. It never occurred to me, nor would I have ever thought, that a storm could take out homes on this street, reduce them to a slab, to rubble. It never occurred to me that that was even a possibility.
Okay, here I'm stepping out of the house, first morning after Katrina, and it is quite a sight. Total devastation. Out at Eagle Point in Biloxi. It's a beautiful morning. Sky's clear, cool, and as you can see, the Luke residents here fared pretty well, and I think it's safe to say that this old house, though right on the water and had 8 feet of water below us, but it saved our life. As you can see across the street, other houses that were on the water and off the water totally collapsed. There's pilings right there. There's the Rester house built up on the water, totally collapsed. Family went up in the trees. Several houses on down that were right on the water. New houses. Nothing but a few pilings left. Total devastation.
When Katrina was in the Gulf and coming in, I think one thing that was lost on me was how big she was. And I don't think I realized you know, she was a big, big storm. Certainly I would never jeopardize or knowingly jeopardize the safety of my family. Of course, in retrospect, I think that's exactly what I did. But it was just a terrible judgment call on my part, not to fully, I think, understand or comprehend just how bad it was going to be back here.
So all of this was underwater. And you can imagine it was not fun being in the house with looked like a tsunami wave coming under you, and houses down the street were washing away right in front of us, and we're wondering if we're next.
My sister and brother-in-law, what they went through at Eagle Point, that's, you know, that was scary.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And you know, at one point when all this was going on, he called me on the cell phone. The last conversation I ever had with him was, he told me he didn't know if they were going to make it or not. And that's the last I ever heard from him.
How did you make contact with him?
The next morning after the hurricane, which I went and got a friend of mine who has a small boat, and we had to take chainsaws and literally cut our way from here to the boat launch just to get his boat in the water. When it really hit me how serious it was when we turned the corner in the river to where my sister lives, and the first thing I saw was nothing where houses, her neighbors' houses were. And I was like, you know, oh my God.
It occurred to me that I might die. And what's worse, it occurred to me that my child might die. So, you know, me dying is one thing, but obviously him dying is another thing. And certainly him dying and me living is something I would not want to happen.
You were here 16 years before Katrina? Yeah, and brought down here to the jobs were brought down here to try and revitalize the economy after 5-6 years after Hurricane Camille, and which did similar things, but not as bad to this area. I came with it, and I stayed a year too long. This was ground zero. We actually were on the edge of the eye. This is just about the way it was, except I found that sign over there in my front yard, and I put it up there.
And it was probably sitting on a post way out there in the sound somewhere.
And washed and tossed and
Gee.
everywhere.
But this was, you were in this room napping.
Yeah, right there where the sound man is. Surf hit the wall. Outside, bam. And so I woke up and I looked out the window. Just had probably forgot where I was. And there I saw the whole front yard, at least 2 feet of water, swirling the swash going back, and the next wave's coming. It was inside. It was like a tomb, just really quiet. I thought it was unusual. And a couple candles were still burning here on the front of the fireplace, and we thought that this house would be safe. And
what house?
Yeah.
What?
Got in the car started, dog in the car, drive 100 yards, and I forgot. The pine trees had already fallen down and blocked the road. I pulled up in this guy's driveway and decided to wait it out and stay away from the flying debris, which was everywhere. I stayed in the car and until the water was up to the top of the dashboard, a little longer than it should have. The car shorted out and the red check engine light came on about 3 inches underwater. Then I got out of the car with the dog, and we came around and sat on the submerged trunk of the car. So the dog was on my arm, keeping his head out of the water. So I went over to a turbine, a roof sheet metal turbine that was spinning like crazy, and jammed a board into it to stop it from spinning, and held onto that with the dog's leash, and dog right between me and the turbine. And then I found a kitchen bar stool and used that in one hand like a gladiator, fending off the flying debris that was absolutely going to hit straight at us.
Were you feeling impact?
Oh yeah. I'm moving across Romanita Street, I guess, where it's 10 feet below me, and I get bumped in the back by a 2-inch diameter telephone cable. So still suspended.
You're floating in the phone lines.
Yeah, that's 30 feet.
Did you ever, Julius, think that you were going to die?
No.
You never did?
No, I just was angry about the fact that it was taking so long.
So you just wanted it to be over with?
Yeah.
What about the dog?
He stayed low, and he stayed behind that attic ventilator turbine. And
was he swimming, or was?
No, we were walking on top of that debris pile.
Poor dog. Can you imagine? Is it the same dog since?
Yeah.
Well,
he doesn't bark as much.
I'm glad you made it.
Somebody said, why did you stay here for Katrina? I said, well, we thought Camille was the mother of all storms till we found out storms don't have mothers. You know, Camille got to probably up right here, about to maybe my knees. You know, Katrina got over the wall right here. And it's just something that, you know, it just caught, you know, from the federal government on down to the locals, it caught everybody by surprise.
It seems to me a lot of the soul was ripped out, you know, the heart was ripped out of it. You know, when I went down and saw, you know, cars and trees and my brother's house gone and everything, and I was there for Camille, as you were, you know, and it took, what, 7 years for it to even have a semblance of what it was before that. I don't know. I have a hard time seeing it come back. But I couldn't stay there. I mean, I didn't see a future for me there. That's why I left.
We got out Sunday morning, that morning before. My wife finally convinced me that it was time to get out.
Monday morning, you know, the water started coming up, and I guess around 10 o'clock, you know, I'm standing there on the second floor looking out that window like I had good sense. You know, I got Category 5 water, you know, this far below the windowsill of the second floor, and I'm standing there gawking, you know, watching the pelicans swim by, and because it wasn't raining, the water was just way up, the wind was blowing, you know, but the water was way high, and you know, and like I say, I just went brain dead.
But we lived on the river, on Jordan River in Bay St. Louis. So Pam grabbed stuff that we thought we'd need, you know, change of clothes, things like that. She did grab a few pictures, which was a surprise, and raised everything up off the floor, put it up on the bed thinking that would be high enough. And our house is 16 feet off the ground already, so that'll give you an idea just how, you know, it's a raised house. And put the cat in the house with a litter box, food, thinking we'd be back next day, pick it, you know, get things straightened out. Well, hurricane took the house and the cat. We're still looking for Rocky. We hadn't found Rocky yet.
My brother-in-law told me to do something really stupid, and I did it. He told me to put a little pressure on them windows, because every time a wave would come, it would splash up on the second floor window, you know. So I put my hand there, and I felt like I was doing a good job, you know. 2 waves come, you know. The 3rd wave, I turned around like that, and I come back, and that whole wave was up in that window. And it felt like 5 linebackers knocked me back about 15 feet. I get up, I got right in my gluteus maximus, I got a big gash, you know. So we get some towels and we get the duct tape, you know what I mean? Always use duct tape when you need in your emergency kit. Yeah.
We were at my nephew's house, Trey, and wound up with about 3 feet of water in his house. And so during the course of the hurricane, I brought my boat over there to keep it just in case we needed it for something. And we wound up having to crawl out of the window to get the boat. We found some people that were up on their roof, the roof of their house, and they were down the street hollering. So during the storm, we were dodging power lines and tree limbs and water, and went down the street and rescued the 2. This wound up being some friends of mine, high school friends. Rescued them off the roof along with their 4 cats.
About 4:30 in the afternoon, the water subsided, and I told them to get me to the hospital before the crowd. The hospital's just right up the street here. So anyway, they got up there and they pulled a 3.5-inch piece of glass out of my gluteus maximus, about 1 inch wide, you know. And so, you know, they're applying direct pressure to it and everything else, like having a knife in you, you know, pushing on it. Well, while they was doing that, my brother-in-law was getting the battery out of a Jeep, and a copperhead bit him on the thumb. So he was in the hospital for a week. We both spent the night in the same room. He was on the bed, I was on the floor. You know, of course, I limped out of there the next morning. He had to stay for about a week.
Camille was bad, or we thought was bad, but Camille was a thunderstorm compared to this thing.
And we had 5 feet of water in the main restaurant, the main dining room, which is, God knows, that had to have about a 35, 40-foot storm surge to get that high.
My dad didn't want anybody telling him he couldn't come back to his home property, so he stayed behind, and me trying to be a good son and trying to help him out, I went over there myself and helped him board up windows, thinking that, you know, it's only going to be like a Category 3 and it's not going to be a big deal.
There were people out walking around, and I was able to get a few of them, get in the back of the truck, and we just kind of rode and looked, and it was just like walking out after an atomic bomb had gone off. I was a little bit terrified, you know, how to start, you know, and I knew that we had lost people, and thank God our police and fire, first responders were out there finding them.
working in the emergency room after Katrina. One fellow told me he was holding onto his roof, he looked at his neighbors holding onto their roof and saw them washed away, never to be seen again. People saying I was holding onto my girlfriend, I couldn't hold on any longer, and she was gone. A lot of these people did survive, but a lot of them did not. We don't know what happened to a lot of the peoples even now.
The water started coming, the wind and rain and started coming in the wind. So me and my roommate and I, we had his car under the carport, and he was out there trying to hold the thing, and the car was already buzzing.
He was trying to hold the car
because it said the car. When we went back inside, I went to the door, and I just saying my prayers, and way after a while, the water come up. The water just come on up, and everything it just rush on in. Everything, just all the glass. It had to get so far because it got all the way up to my fireplace, way up there.
I will say, as far as my respect for nature, I mean, you try to say I have control over this, I have control over that, and then when Mother Nature rolls in and says no, you don't, I mean, it's really humbling because I mean, there was certain points in that storm where no movie special effects could even come close. I mean, it just everything that could move was moving. It looked like the end of the world sometimes. It was crazy to look at.
Man, this is like a freaking tsunami.
It's bad, it's coming your way. It's big, it's bad, and it's coming your way.
I don't think Weyburn, Bay St. Louis will ever rebuild. Not the way it was.
That's two people stuck on a boat. They swam to the boat from God knows where.
Everybody told me this place stayed dry during Camille.
It looked like a water atomic bomb had gone off or something like that. It's crazy to look at.
When we first moved here, this was a dirt road. There were almost no homes anywhere. That road behind you was not even cut through at all. It was just a quiet little piece of woods. And it grew up a lot in the last 25, 30 years, and it's kind of back to being quiet again.
Were you scared?
No, I wasn't, because I feel if I went to Bessie, I went to Camille, and I said, well, if God is ready for me, I'm ready. I said, well, my winch is already it's waiting for me up there.
This was just exactly like being in a blender, for 6 hours. We were on what I call the ugly side of the storm, where that northeast quarter is where the bad things happen.
There was a woman who was washed out of her house, grabbed onto a tree and held on for dear life as the hurricane buffeted her against the tree. When the eye of the hurricane came, she worked her way around the other side of the tree, so when it came back, it pushed her against the other side. The storm washed away all her clothes, and she came in, the whole front of her body had been scraped away. All the skin had been scraped away. Rescue squad rescued one 5-year-old who was the only one to survive from his family. Everybody else was killed in the hurricane.
I tried to get back in my neighborhood in downtown Long Beach, and I got stopped by the police and everything, and they said, what are you doing back here? I said, I'm going to look for some of my belongings in my house. I'm like, you're not going to find anything, there's nothing there. And I said, yeah, I just want to look for some of my stuff. And he said, look, son, we're looking for bodies. And that's when it really struck home, like, how serious it was that there's actually people who stay in my neighborhood, that didn't make it out.
If you notice around here, the trees are laid over, snapped off, twisted like a can of biscuits. I mean, it really the storm approached beating stuff down in many different ways besides the water. It was quite a unique windstorm at that.
About midnight, I woke up for the sound of the storm, and I started looking around and checking things, looking at the water level of the bayou. I'm not sure what time the tornado came through, but I was downstairs checking the tiles in that window, and a tornado came through and ripped part of the house across the street off and hit my house right where I was standing. the girl across the street called me and told me what had hit the house. I could see pieces of people's houses flying through the air, and I just said, I'm not getting in front of any more windows. I was already cut up, so I just went down, got a litter box and everything, and got some food for the cats, and sat in the laundry room and waited it out. I was open on 3 sides of the house, so it was kind of scary.
This is bad.
I kept coming out of the laundry room periodically to check on things, and I came out and one of the French doors that was still there was moving in the wind, and so I decided to try and prop a piece of cat furniture up against it. And when I reached out to pick that up, I almost grabbed a water moccasin. So that made me pretty angry, and I thought, well, I'm going to have to shoot him. And then I thought, where's the bullet going to go? And then I was like, I don't care where the bullet goes. So I went to my radio, called my coworker, said I have a water moccasin in my house. I think I'm going to have to shoot him. He said, shoot him. So I went upstairs, past broken windows to get a .22 rifle, came downstairs, climbed up on my couch and shot him. And then I had to poke him, make sure he was dead, and then I didn't want him in my house, so I got something to fling him out of the house. So I got rid of the snake, solved that problem.
We stayed at our grandparents' house in Gaucher, which is on the golf course. And once water came up to their doorstep, and we were bringing our wedding marriage certificates and photos and what we could up in the attic, I had to tell her, I was like, our house, I know it's gone. There's no way. And then trying to get in touch with family at that point, you know, it was like it was living in hell. It really, that's what it was.
As much as 6 to 8 miles inland, they got 20 feet of rise in the water above normal.
2 of the worst storms in recorded history. There's only been, what, 3 or 4 that ever made landfall in this country in history, and we had 2 of them right here. So I mean, hey, this place is jinxed. Water started coming in the house. Well, I saw these people across the street were home, so I said, well, I'll just go over here and stay with them, you know, because the water is probably not going to get but about this deep at the worst, and then after it's gone, I can come over and start cleaning it up, you know. So I took my truck and parked it up on top of the road out there on the hill. So anyway, I went over and knocked on the door, and they said, yeah, come on in, you can stay with us. Well, of course, it all went downhill from there.
This was the front door. This is where all I remember walking in there, the pictures were on the left side of the wall, well, both sides of the wall.
Both sides of the wall and all the way down.
Their whole family's history on
That's right.
Nothing happened in Camille with this office, right?
No, it didn't even get water in Camille.
God. Do you have any estimation of how high the water was in this area?
I haven't seen any, but you know, of course, the finished floor elevation is 23, so it's probably 30 feet here, I would guess.
Were you stunned when you came back and saw this?
You know, stunned's probably not a good word for it. It's still stunning.
Yeah.
I drive down the beach now, and it just takes your breath away. It's hard to even describe.
It all started coming in so fast. Before I know it, I walked over to the carport to look at my house, see how it was doing. Well, at that point, my house, the water was already up to the doorknobs on the door. So I said, well, I'm gonna try to save my truck, because at least it has an air conditioner. 20, 30 minutes later, I go back to the door to look at my house, and I look up there, and my truck is going underwater again up here. So I'm going, gosh. So I hauled, this time I have to swim through their yard to get to the road, because their yard has a dip in it.
You literally had to swim?
Oh yeah, I had to swim to get to the road.
And how, the wind was top speed at that point?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Are you nuts?
I guess.
My brother and I, Dean, both, came out here, just the two of us, and we cried together.
I bet you did, man.
And the things it wasn't so much that our office was gone, but there were things that are not replaceable in any respect. That pictures and your dad's stuff, just the stuff. My dad's legislative chair from the legislature was in my office. He found a stick of it. So, that kind of thing, you can't put monetary value on it.
I've been missing you real bad. And I really do believe it's the worst heartache I've ever had.
So at this point, the water's into the second level. Furniture's floating around and everything's crazy.
And where was it on your house?
Oh, it was my house. I'd just forget my house is gone, man. At one point, it was hopeless. There was you couldn't put stuff high enough, and we're standing in water this deep in their house. But the bad thing is, I look outside. Well, the water is probably 2 feet deeper outside the house than it is in the house.
Huh.
And now it has so much pressure on the doors that the doors are all jammed, and I'm going, well, this isn't good.
This isn't looking good.
They didn't want to leave, but there was really no other option. The storm door opens to the outside, and that's what was jammed. What you couldn't open it. So I got up in the corner and just boated out long enough to letting water in the house to equalize the pressure. They have a dog and a cat. And so we all head out of their house to head up the hill to find dry land. And of course, again, I'm looking out there, and my truck is worse than ever. It's up above the bottom of the doors on my truck, and I'm going, oh, not again. It was actually floating when I got in it.
Oh, man.
But it managed to get enough traction to where I got it on up the hill and parked it underneath someone's carport. And of course, the inside was soaked, was wet and all. But I did save my truck.
I laughed when my daughter was just graduated high school, and they had to write a senior book, and they had to write something about mom and dad. And one of the things she wrote about me is that I was so strong, and she really admired me after the storm because she never saw me cry or do anything. And I thought to myself, she didn't see me inside the bathroom at night after everybody had gone to bed. Because I'll be honest with you, there were times that I certainly did cry. You couldn't do anything but.
I rode around Bayou Circle when I came to get my mother out, and what struck me was everybody's life was piled up outside right along the street to be picked up.
I never knew I had so much junk.
Right. Wet junk
and
now.
Wet junk. But it also instilled in a lot of camaraderie in the neighborhood. I mean, we all helped each other, and And you know, it got dark early because there was no electricity. Well, we had the generators, and you saved those until you went to bed, primarily because of the gas problem. And so we would all meet down at Boyd, you know, our friend's house at night, once it got dark, and we would barbecue and drink beer.
In your wildest dreams, I mean, we both went through Camille in the same neighborhood, a block apart. That was supposed to be the worst ever, right?
Oh, yeah.
We didn't have any water.
For me to walk back to my house, to wade through the water to in my house and put my wallet and keys on the countertop, because, I mean, it was just unthinkable that the water could ever get that high.
Did you ever find your wallet?
Oh, yeah.
You really realize how unbelievably powerful this thing was when you look at this docile little creek, which now is sort of...
Yeah, innocent little minnow creek, which is normally 6 inches deep.
The water got up to where here?
It got up to about a foot above the eave of my house. This used to be my neighbor's house, and actually their house was a little lower than mine was, and they had there was about 10 feet of water in this house, and so they just bulldozed it.
Were you ever scared?
The scariest part is, yeah, during the middle of a hurricane, you need eyes in the back of your head, because I've been out in several of them, and just limbs breaking off trees, flying through the air, and that kind of stuff can be dangerous. But no, I was never scared.
Next time, do me a favor and park your truck at your mother's house, will you?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, if they're calling for a Katrina type storm surge, you can bet I will. I've learned my lesson on that.
The reconstruction is going to be delayed because of bureaucracy and red tape. An example of that would be the crew is right there. There are dead trees in the yard. There's trees across the street that need to come down. But the bureaucratic thing wouldn't take them down because they didn't qualify it wasn't a 30-degree lean. I mean, there's no way the tree is ever going to live, but they wouldn't take it down. They said, let the county do it. So now we have this trickle down. The government lets the state lets the... So you see, it's a bumbling bunch of idiocy.
But I think what the insurance companies are doing too is basically fraud. They've lied to me on several different occasions, and they're not paying it.
You had flood insurance?
I had flood insurance, but I had zero contents coverage because I never thought I'd actually flood that high up.
What about insurance for you?
We had all the necessary insurance that we thought we needed to protect us in case of something like this. Unfortunately, the insurance companies don't quite see it that way. I think there's a lot of misrepresentation that's been going on with these insurance companies. And I think it's got to come back to haunt them. It's got to, because they're just not doing the right thing. It's a crime. It's just a crime that they're doing to these people.
When you need the insurance, they can find something in the fine print which eliminates the coverage or minimizes it, or you've got to sue them, and it takes a year or two in court.
You go to the person that lives here and you say, sell me my insurance that I need for that. You pick your deductible, you try to get as good a rate as you can, and you go off, you're insured. The local agents believe you're insured. You know, those guys are innocent in this deal, in my opinion. And then something unprecedented happens, and then you're standing out there and you get, well, we'll give you 10% of what it's going to cost you to come back. Hey man, that's not right.
People were able to rebuild their homes, but they had to use their own money, their whole life savings, and they're not being compensated by either the government nor the insurance company that they've been paying policies on for years. It's like putting your money in the bank, and when you need to get your money out, the bank says, you didn't read the fine print. You're not getting your money out until we say you can.
They need to step in here and pay these people, do the right thing.
It's disaster world, there ain't no help around. In disaster world, it's all upside down. It's all upside down.
young mayor in Gulfport. He'd never even been in politics. And war, I think he's doing very well.
He probably won't tell you, but he lost his home on the coast. He became mayor like 4 months before Katrina.
The trauma of walking out of your door in New Orleans and seeing what they saw was very traumatic. So I understand and I appreciate their feeling and what they've gone through. This is where the storm came rolling in. And we're not good at asking for help. You know what I mean? We tend to say, there's something broken, let's fix it. Have I wondered oftentimes, you know, is the media attention that other areas are getting, you know, to our west, serving us or disserving us? It's probably disserved us some.
So much of that money's going to the war, and here we are, you know, the people of the United States, just America, you know, where they're not taking care of our own.
I lost everything, no insurance. I did try to approach FEMA. They turned me down, SBA turned me down. They sent me back to FEMA. FEMA sent me back to SBA. I've been through that process 3 or 4 times, and when I was told that I would be awarded, I probably got around 10% of that. So I looked at it and said, how can I rebuild my life with this?
I love New Orleans, and not to say that New Orleans wasn't a real tragedy, but having heard it month after month after month about New Orleans, it's like, wait a minute, New Orleans didn't get a hurricane. New Orleans got a levee break. It is terrible what happened there, just like it's terrible what happens in Indonesia when an earthquake happens, okay? But when it is home, you know, when you're talking about somewhere that you live and you know something horrific happened and you watch people still cleaning up from it every day and people living in tents because of it every day, where, you know, hello, it's like Horton Hears a Who, you know, and you don't know we're here, hello. So what are you gonna do?
We were very, very aggravated over the fact that we weren't getting the exposure that we needed to have over here. We're still fighting it, but we've kind of gotten a little numb to it, just a little bit. We just have decided to just put our nose to the grindstone, take care of your own business. Whatever happens, happens in the way of help. And that's just the spirit of South Mississippi.
I have sort of a cynical theory that, you know, members of the national media only cover places where they've had a drink, you know, and, you know, they've probably never been to a bar in Biloxi or Gulfport or Pass Christian or Bay St. Louis, but you know they've been in one in New Orleans, somewhere in the French Quarter.
I don't see why they getting all the attention. I mean, a lot of folks up here lost life, home, you know what I'm saying, business.
911, where's your emergency?
Yeah, I'm on the beach in Biloxi, and my apartment is coming apart.
Okay.
About 4 foot of water's underneath me. I'm on the 2nd floor.
Right now, there's nothing that we can do as far as coming to rescue you. 911. Hello? I need help. Try to say help ASAP because we have a lot of people over here. No emergency personnel can be on the road. Okay? That's why there was a mandatory evacuation. 911.
I'm right on the coastline. My house is filling up with water.
Okay, how deep is it, the water in your house?
The water is up to my kitchen counter. My house is shaking. It's about ready to come down.
Okay, well, we don't have any emergency personnel out on the roads right now. I can't promise how long it'll be, but as soon as we can get somebody out to you, we will.
Oh God, we're gonna die.
Biloxi Police and Fire.
I just want to let you know that me and my mother that died. We're trapped in our house and it's falling apart.
What do you think about the first responders, all the people that didn't live here that came in to help people and just willing to give their lives? I mean, what's your feeling for those people?
I got goosebumps right now because they've done so much for this coast. They've done so much that the government hadn't been able to do, and these people stepped up, came down here, and just helped where help was needed. And we can't thank them enough. I mean, they come in my restaurant I got to come talk to them every time they come in the restaurant. I'll come out of my kitchen and go thank them just for what they've done. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to do that.
I cut into this church parking lot just like I was meant to. I walked in and into this trailer. And the lady said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I was told somebody could help me clean my house out." And about 30 days later, a church group from Huntsville, Alabama showed up.
Just like God can give it to you, He can take it away.
I never dreamed that the North Carolina Baptist men even existed. You know, the fact that they would come to Gulfport and rebuild 600 homes, materials, labor, and everything, it's just unbelievable.
The church groups are the ones that really helped so many people get started on the recovery part.
The nicest ones people, and I tell you what, when a storm happens somewhere else, I'm going to my church and we're going to pack a group and we're going to go help them.
The community pulled together.
I think the whole experience has made everybody have more compassion. In fact, a friend of mine in this town that I live in, you know, he had they told me that they had a big tree hit their barn and, you know, a couple things here and there, and they were all upset about it because their trees were down and, you know, their barn got hit and some other things. And he said they came down to the coast and he came back and told his wife, "We don't have any problems, we're fine."
Well, it's just amazing to see all the help that's come here to get us back on our feet, and the resiliency of all the people that live here. It gives you great hope that the coast will be back.
We have wonderful volunteers come pouring in still. People helping is really still there, and it's just a blessing.
It's a healing. It makes you feel that you should be thankful for what you have.
The dolphins, we knew they were in much better shape than the sea lions were, just being in the water. So we had to wait for help. We needed government agencies to come in with some boats because we didn't have any way to dock boats and get them in the water. On the 12th day, we went out looking for them, and they were within 1,000 yards of marine life, and they were all together, all of them, in one big group.
And the shape they're in now?
Wonderful. They're just like new.
Do you feel like you did something that was good for humanity and makes a difference in your life?
Oh, definitely. I mean, definitely. People tell us, well, they're just fish. Well, they're not just fish. After you spend 5, 10, and 11 years working with these mammals side by side, they become a part of you. And being forced to leave them alone that night, I actually felt guilty. But being able to retrieve them all again it's a remarkable feeling.
Pekingese named Gizmo, and he's just a tough little guy. The whole house was filled with bayou mud, about 4 feet. We took Gizmo the Pekingese down, and he started crying. This little dog started crying, so he immediately understood the sorrow.
I kind of I went 86'd it, you know. I said, well, that's it, it's over. I didn't even know if my house was going to be here. I was like relieved when I saw it. I said, the thing is still standing. I couldn't believe that, but it was. Everybody else's place was kind of torn up. Then I realized the amount of work it's going to take, not just for me, but just the zone. And then I said, I just don't know.
This is going to be a tough one to come back from. You know, you don't want to give up, but you know, it's like we're on the ropes right now. You know.
We're hitting so many people with suicidal ideations, with the major depressions, with the substance abuse. It's been a rough time.
We're having problems with depression now. We're having more problems now than we did right after the storm, because right after the storm we expended all our energy on survival. And right now we are having issues. We're having difficulties because life is easier now. We can get food without having to leave the county. We can get gas up the street. But we're in limbo. Don't feel like we are able to move forward.
It has been very hard, and the storm has affected people in different ways. And I even find myself calling it the storm, where people name it and call it Katrina. I honestly think that it's just some, you know, subconscious anger I have for it, you know, disrespect for it, angry at Mother Nature, if you will.
It's going to be better in terms of the economic engine that's going to result, but it's going to be not as good in terms of the ambiance and the personal nature of what we had.
My grandmother told me a long time ago, the only thing you can be sure of in life is things change. Nothing stays the same. In these antebellum homes, they go on. There's nothing. My son-in-law said, this is a disastrous opportunity.
Bay St. Louis is, as you know, you were down there, and it's taken such a tremendous hit. We don't know what's going to happen if they ever going to come back from there.
My biggest fear is that I won't live to see it rebuild entirely. I think it will, but it may be 20 years.
I've noticed a great difference in my brother rebuilding his home. He's coming back, and that's a very heartening thing.
The hardest thing was getting rid of everything that was in here. I had real issues. Every time I would touch something, I could say, I can save this. Right. You know, photographs, clothes, everything, books, all the books that I had, reference books, are just gone.
Once they got past that, the feeling of just being kicked in the teeth and just totally defeated, the human spirits just come back, and these people they're not going to go. They're not going to leave, you know.
Well, I tell everybody, you know, that pretty blue water in Florida, said there ain't nothing in it but seaweed. See that old muddy water out there? Shrimp, crabs, oysters, bukus of fish. You know what the moral of the story is? A lot of loving going on in the mud.
A lot of people have left, and a lot of people, you know, just had nowhere to live. A lot of people have lost their jobs.
Everything that was lost is a permanent loss to history. Once you've lost something, you don't get it back.
It will never, ever be what it has been or what it could have been. There's just this overwhelming sense of emptiness and sadness.
Where's the music in the street? Where's the beat beneath my feet? Where's the place I used to know? What will I do? Where will I go? 'Cause you've erased it. You can't replace it. Since you've erased it, I can't find the place I call home.
it kind of cleansed everything and was a new cycle of life for everybody. And granted, times are still hard for a lot of people here. I mean, a lot of people. And you know, a lot of people just still can't cope with it. And music, I think, has always been one of those things that is, I mean, John Lennon, Jimi Hendrix, B.B. King, all those people affected people in some of the world's most hardest times that ever faced. Those were the times when people got to say, hey, everything might be bad right now, but we have a chance to enjoy ourselves and be thankful we're even alive to do it.
The coast is going to change just because it's a necessity. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of the homes come back and be rebuilt as homes. It's going to change into commercial development because the real estate's so valuable. Even though we've been hit by a storm, you know, you just don't see many places where you can build along a beautiful coastline like this.
Most of the historical buildings in this town are gone. A good portion of this town is gone, but most of its people are still here. We love this town. This is our community. We know what we have lost, and we are going to do everything we can to get it back.
Some friends of mine have 2 sons that are twins, and they are guitar players, and they both have competing bands, and they put on a concert on their slab, that slab of where their house used to be, and they drew 50 kids. These kids, when there was nothing, and they went out and they scavenged wood, and they put together a place to practice. They built it up so it had a little elevation, and they built them a practice room. And they started wailing their guitars, and there's nobody. They turn their amps up and they just play to the trees, you know. And they've practiced, and now they've got a following, and so there's a little music scene happening. And it's a little pockets, but those pockets will grow, so there's a good chance it'll come back strong.
We've had scratch and claw for everything that we've had. We've been last in everything that's good, you know, and first in everything that's bad sometimes, you know. And the fact that down here we've always had something that was really beautiful and really more sophisticated than that persona is, and we've always known that we really did understand, and we had a great place down here. We had a beautiful place, and we didn't deserve that last position. We were better than that.
My town is completely gone. It was a very low-lying area. There wasn't a wall left standing in my town. We were fighting high-rise condo and casino development before the storm, for the full year before the storm. We've got a much tougher battle ahead of us since the storm. The county needs the money, the state needs the money, and we have developers, excuse me, but they look to me like they're vultures, and they are perching, and they are just waiting. And it could very well be that we have lost this battle.
1 year after I was told that I would qualify, I have not one dime to show for it, so I'm hanging on as long as I can, and my fingernails are starting to bleed.
I wish that I could go out in the community every day and tell them all of these incredible things that are happening and beginning to happen. I've learned through my life in the business community that you can't talk about all that stuff or it'll get undone, you know. Somehow or another that seems to happen. You never know what you say that's going to undo something. So we have to play it kind of quiet and just make it happen.
Man, I hate to be a doomsayer, but I honestly think it's going to be 10 or 20 years before it even resembles what was here.
If this happens again in the next even 5 years, 10 years, you know, what it could do, because at some point people, I think, would just throw their hands up, because, you know, we can't afford something like this again, and we have no control over that.
We've always said, you know, the only thing wrong with living here is there's no place better to retire to.
I admire these people, us, everybody here for the no can die spirit, you know. I mean, it's just in our blood, I guess.
never know what's in your soul or what you do or how you react to something like this, I guess, until it happens, and then you just something just takes you over, you know, and you just go until you can't go anymore.
The clothes can be replaced, the furniture can be replaced, the house can be replaced. You just can't replace the history of your life.
For myself, I feel blessed because I'm here. And I don't have to wear a t-shirt to say I survived.
During these journeys home, I've seen a lot of things that are broken, but I've also seen a lot of things that aren't.
It's very hard to find. I wonder if you ever knew just how much you meant to me. Gone but not forgotten, I still live your memory.
This is a tribute to the Mississippi Gulf Coast in the wakes of Hurricane Katrina. It's gonna be alright. Got the weight of the world. Everything's gonna be. Sometimes I stay awake late at night, wondering if everything's really gonna be alright. Yeah. Cause I'm surrounded by initials, SBA, FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, all watching over me. We got ARCs, DRCs, PODs, down power lines and trees, no electricity. Yeah, Hurricane Katrina took the beach away. What else can I say? That I'll live to see another day, yeah. I'm living in a FEMA trailer, now I'm waiting on my FEMA check. But I got no security at all, yeah. Cause Hurricane Katrina took that all away in just one damn day. What the hell else can I say? So now all I do is pray, yeah. To remove my fears and to hide the pain, holding back my tears. Cause I'm not the same. It's gonna be alright.